officially in the pre-show.
Hello, Buffalo Doge audience. Welcome to the Buffalo Doge pre-show. Today's episode, we're going to be auditing tomorrow's Buffalo Common Council meeting and also, auditing yesterday's, let's call it a tragic loss, but it's kind of, a rite of passage of the yearly Bills disappointment. We'll be speaking about that as well, and then also talking through some FOIL requests that I've submitted with the Buffalo Police Department, specifically regarding FOILs for the City of Buffalo's contract with Data Miner, a social media surveillance app. So I've gotten some response from BPD there, and so that's kind of the three topics: is tomorrow's Common Council, Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Police. And as always, and then the mayor's race. So actually Saturday, I was able to attend the Erie County Democratic Committee's mayor debate forum, which was great for me because technically it's not open up to the public. So I was able to attend as a campaign staffer. Because I'm not allowed to be on the Democratic Committee as the Democratic chairman, who's also the Board of Elections commissioner, in concert with my Democratic council member. They kind of messed up my petition and protested me. So I'm not a committeeman, but I was able to get an insider view. So I'll be sharing some of my insider thoughts there as an outsider that was able to glean into the mayor's race. So we have eight candidates. I'm actually currently the acting campaign manager for what I believe is a historic mayor candidate, Maggie Harder, the first transsexual anarchist candidate for Buffalo mayor, I believe, in the city's history. So it's a very historic campaign. Maggie for mayor. Maggie Harder came out with a 20-point plan immediately following the Erie County Democratic Committee forum. So I'll be detailing my experience there, and very excited about after this Bills loss. I know it's disappointing, but I think the 2025 is going to be an exciting year in city government with the mayor's race and other things as well. I'm got some second wind in me and have been foiling as a hobby, so I've been enjoying filing FOIL requests and hoping to get some transparency and some information. Specifically around the data miner contract. I submitted some FOILs there and have not got responses yet, but I was able to get some. So I'll be auditing Buffalo Police today. And as always, drop a comment if you're watching this live. I'll be glad to interact with you in real time. And if not, I always read the comments after. So let me know if there's anything you'd like to see me cover in future shows. And this is one of my newer shows. I'm in better physical shape than last week when I had to drop out due to some mishaps, but that's the nature of live streaming and live performance. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you planned. This is my first one of the first shows of me kind of moving my recording date to Monday. I'm hoping to do that just with the Common Council on Tuesday. Kind of use this show as a way to get people on board and ready for the following days. Committee or regular meetings. So looks like we're getting locked and loaded here.
All three platforms have accepted your stream.
Well, that's awesome.
Ready to go on the air?
I am ready. Hello, Think Twice Radio, and welcome to the Buffalo Doge Show with the Chief Deputy Comptroller of Doge, me, Matthew Austin. So this is the Buffalo Doge logo, and welcome to today's show. Looks like we have a little lag here. Could we have the radio staff? Does it look like we're lagging a little bit?
You do.
Click. But we're having some streaming issues, but that's the nature of probably the bandwidth. I think maybe the video is just very overwhelmed with the amount of engaging, exciting content we're about to distribute via the internet and via data on.
You want me to see if I can fix it?
Yeah, do you think you could fix it?
Let's see if it throws everything off when I do this.
Okay, this is innovative. We are real time.
Okay, and now I'm going to go back. Did that fix it?
Hello. Test. Looks a little laggy still. Test. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4,
That's as close as I can get it.
5. Okay. That's fine. So yeah, today's show, obviously today is the day after the Buffalo Bills lost to the Kansas City Chiefs again in the AFC Championship game. So I think that's kind of where I'll start because I feel like the entire region and the city, that's kind of where we are today. So I want to provide some post-game analysis in the short term and then maybe try to paint an optimistic picture of the future. But yeah, yesterday's victory by the Chiefs was obviously not what Buffalo Bills fans had been hoping for, rooting for, maybe even expecting. But it's the reality. We've lost again. This is now 0-4 against the Chiefs. And it was obviously disappointing. I think going into the game, there seemed to be a universal and kind of community-wide cautious optimism. I don't think anyone really... We all kind of knew we had a shot to win. Obviously, we know we could lose, but I think we all felt pretty good going into the game. And after... Right, it was a challenging game. But I think, the big takeaway after it is kind of a universal... I don't want to say numbness, but I think we're all kind of, it was disappointing, right? We feel like we did have a shot, and I don't know. It was just we didn't feel like we played our best, but here we are again. So I think couple takeaways. I think the media, right? The media, national media, tries to always spin it as Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, and kind of turn it into like a boxer analogy, which is true. I think Patrick Mahomes and Allen are both quarterbacks, but ultimately it's, the Bills versus the Chiefs, and the Bills and Chiefs are each rosters of 53 players with coaching staffs and regimes. Josh Allen never plays Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes never plays Josh Allen. They're each playing each other's defense. So I think just a couple takeaways. Just what it seems. I mean, it just seemed like a tough game. I know going into it, I was hoping to see what I call bully ball, but I was really hoping we would be able. Right, our offensive line has been tremendous this year, and I was really hoping we'd come out and be able to run the ball, which we showed flashes of, but I think really, I don't think our offensive line had quite the advantage of what I thought it was going to be going into the game. I think, the Chiefs were able to shut down our tush-push play, and really, they were very stout at the point of attack, and it was disappointing we didn't have any variations or really no trick plays, and also, defensively, it just seems like our defense is still struggling with the same issues we've been struggling with a couple of years. And we just seem to, right, we're undersized, small, kind of prevent, bend, don't break, which is fine and great for a philosophy. But I think it's time for the Bills to really, I'd like to see our defense just get more physical. And it was frustrating to watch. I think kind of a good epitome was, the fourth down play. At the end of the game, right, where the Chiefs coaching staff was just able to dial up, a perfectly executed blitz where I think they had 2 or 3 guys come rushing at Allen, and Allen, made a last-ditch kind of Hail Mary attempt. And again, right, we had our receiver drop the ball. And I think it's just I think just the Chiefs, right, Mahomes is a good quarterback, but I think he gets way too much credit. It's always seems like he's kind of the Michael Jordan, or he's like the one-man show, which is true. He's a great player, but he's just one cog in the Chiefs machine, which is very well oiled and run from, their ability to draft and develop players, assemble a roster, and just the coaching staff of the Chiefs just seems to be it's their edge. It's just better than what the Bills got. It seemed like they had answers and they were game planned and prepped for us, but we just didn't have the ability to really adapt or be creative, and it felt like another kind of... We're definitely mismatched, it feels like, on the coaching. Not to say that McDermott's a bad coach. I think he's proven he's a great NFL coach, but it's more just kudos to the Chiefs staff. I think Andy Reid is just at a different level. He's really, he's the modern Belichick. He's the current mad genius, and he's just really the cream of the crop coach. And then I think Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, also just kind of flies under the radar. And the ability for them to have both those coaches, maybe the top offensive and defensive mind on the same team, in line with just a general manager and organization that's able to develop. And the Chiefs just have a mental toughness that's really hard, and it's disappointing as a Bills fan. I think right going into the game, it just felt like this year was different. It felt the whole team, just the whole year, just felt like a really well gelled team. It just felt like we had, I don't know, that kind of a magic. It just felt like we had a special energy this year, and it's definitely disappointing, especially after the game where it's not really, you can't point to one player or one thing that's wrong. I think there'll be plenty of time this offseason to kind of deep dive and pick apart, where we need to improve. But it's kind of disappointing because it just felt like, we're right there with them. We had them where we wanted them again. I mean, 3.5 minutes, we had the ball, we had the game in our control, and we just weren't able to, just execute and really finish them away. And I think, there's some questionable calls, but I think ultimately it was just the coaching. I would have liked to see some, better play calls, and especially that final drive. The opening drive too, I thought was a pretty poor way to open it. I loved Josh running the ball on the first play, but I would love to see some runs, and would have really liked to see some, just more commitment to the run. I mean, James Cook, he was excellent. It seemed like the Chiefs had no answer, and for some reason we just didn't. I think there's an alternative universe, and I think there was an opportunity for us there to really, run the ball and exploit our advantage in the run game. And ultimately, the Chiefs won, and they're the Supreme King, and it's disappointing because, we always say there'll be next year, but it's just so hard to get to this level, to get into the Final Four, to be in the AFC Championship game, and you just don't know how many more opportunities we're really going to get at it. I mean, I know it's kind of all dependent on Josh Allen, but we're just one injury or one poor season away. It just feels like we really have to get it soon. I mean, this is now 4 times in 5 years, and it's disappointing. And I think that's kind of where I am today, but I think I'd like to, try to paint a optimistic picture and maybe bring some optimism to the Bills. I think to do that, I think you really have to understand that this year was kind of a soft rebuild year. It was really right last year. We had to get rid of kind of the old core, which was, Stephon Diggs, Mitch Morris, Gabe Davis, Poyer, Hyde. And really we're transitioning to this new era where it's Josh and some new players. And this year it was really, we were planning on being competitive, but I think we kind of exceeded expectations, and that makes me positive. I think with this year, the Diggs cap hit comes off our caps. That's $30 million. And I think we've got 10 draft picks. So I think we've kind of cleared the cap, and we have, right in our current regime, head coach and GM, it's not that they're great. They're a great duo. They're one of the best in the NFL, but it's really when you get to this point of the season, you're not comparing yourself against, the rest of the league. You're comparing yourself against the Chiefs, who are, the gold platinum standard of the league. And we're still just a little bit behind them. I think, I'd like to see us start really hitting on our high picks. I think, with Dalton Kincaid dropping that pass, and even, it's disappointing to see even the Xavier Worthy versus Keon Coleman, right? We traded down, the Chiefs got Worthy, and then, also the Kaiir Elam first round pick when, the Chiefs traded above us to get Trent McDuffie, where McDuffie is an elite corner, and Kaiir Elam really did not play up to standards yesterday. So it's kind of, I think there's some gaps in personnel, and I would love to see us, again, just try to get tougher. It just seems like at the end of the year, the Chiefs defense is just tough, mentally tough. They're more physical than us, and it just seems like I'd like to see that kind of be our move towards the philosophy. I think over the last few years, you've seen the offense kind of transition from a more, air raid attack to kind of a really a run first physical game. I'd love to see the defense follow suit. And, it's disappointing, but there's also room for optimism just given our cap situation. I mean, we still have Allen, and we'll have the ability to retool and reload here. But again, we've got to get one here soon, because at some point, right, the rest of the league is going to catch up. And I know the Chiefs are, it's been 7 years now. They've been the AFC Championship. It's really hard to maintain that standard. And I'm hopeful that we can get one, because I was joking with a coworker that's kind of from out the region, and just knowing how a win, even just a Super Bowl appearance, would really do a lot for the region and the city's psyche. I think we're very similar to Canada in a way of, with hockey, we're Bills here. It's part of our psyche is, and that's has some pros and drawbacks. I could get into, how our local government has really spent too much resources on a private enterprise, which is the bills. But again, it's kind of the nature of our region, and more disappointing just for all the fans. And even this year, I'm not upset this year. It's more okay. We've kind of come to accept that this is the normal, and I feel bad for some of the older Bills fans that lived through the 4 Super Bowls. It was just crazy how they were able to flip a switch like nothing happened because they've been through, and I feel like the more you experience, the more you just accept that this is the way it is, which is disappointing. But yeah, so let me transition now to the. Let's start with the Buffalo Common Council meetings tomorrow. Oh, so this is the VIN 2, but I guess we'll start with tomorrow's meeting calendar. So tomorrow is the Buffalo Common Council meeting. So let's see if I can get this here. But yeah, this is the City of Buffalo Common Council website. So I just want to go through tomorrow's. Today is Monday night, so this is kind of like a Buffalo DOGE caucus, but tomorrow is the Buffalo Common Council meeting. So I just wanted to kind of run through the agenda and just see what's on the docket for tomorrow. So the site to get here is buffalony.iqm2.com, which is a weird handle, but that's where these minutes are located. So let's look at these. So tomorrow we have a civil service meeting scheduled for 15 minutes, finance, a waterfront development committee, that's rare, and then legislation and community development too. So let's go through these agendas and just kind of see what's up tomorrow. So here's the civil service committee agenda. So we have a couple items. We have 25-47, notice of acting commissioner of police, Alfonso Wright. So this is a notice that right last week, the acting mayor, Chris Scanlon, fired, or the commissioner, Joseph Gramaglia, resigned, although it was kind of clear that he was terminated. So this is a notice just showing that Alfonso Wright will be the new acting commissioner. There was some discussion in the chambers of whether it seems like the city charter does not allow an acting mayor cannot appoint a permanent commissioner. An acting mayor can only appoint an acting commissioner, and then those acting commissioners can only serve 180-day terms, which creates a lot of issues, right? We have this acting mayor, and my perception, right? You'll see the spin from the administration saying that this was done due to philosophy, but even David Rivera, the Common Council's police oversight, said he's never heard Chris Scanlon talk about philosophy of the police department. So this is really surprising, even to those people in the know in the Common Council. My perspective, and I think what people in the know kind of think, is that what you see here is acting mayor Chris Scanlon is kind of using his position as the acting mayor and the authority of the mayor to really curry favors. I feel like he fired the police commissioner to curry favors with the police union in order to get the police union vote before the primary election. It's kind of a weird timing because the week before Joseph Gramaglia was terminated, the city, Chris Scanlon and the police commissioner had come out with this press release touting that, violent crime was at the lowest rate. It was super low and they were making progress. And then a week later, the commissioner or the police commissioner was fired. And I base the assumption on this is because on the police union website, the union president had kind of had some rhetoric in his newsletter just talking about really spewing kind of disdain for the commissioner and saying that this with the new mayor, we'll get a new commissioner. And then it's very clear in my interpretation of what's going on is, the acting mayor, he terminated the police commissioner really to get the rank and fire officers and really curry a favor for the police union in order to get their vote. Because this week, acting Mayor Scanlon officially announced that he is running for mayor. So the June primary will be here soon. And I think with so many candidates in the race, really the police union and these voting blocks is going to be, it's very important. So it's a very strong political force, the police union. And I'm sure they'll remember. I mean, the police union has already held fundraisers for the acting mayor. The acting mayor's deputy mayor has had experience as a consultant or a communications consultant with the police department, so there is a tie over there. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing in civil service. Look like there's some other appointments here. So this director of administration, director of media relations. It just looks like the acting mayor is making several appointments. And another thing that I've seen here is this PAM forms from provisional to permanent. I've seen this recently of items coming to the Civil Service Commission committee changing employee statuses from provisional to permanent with this form, which I'm not sure if that's allowed, but I'm curious if my items have anything to do with this, because you'll see here item 24-2175. This is an item I have tabled, which is about concerns with the provisional pipelines, and then also 24-1763 civil service exams for provisional data appointments. So I've pointed out in these items that the city of Buffalo is violating civil service law by keeping people provisionally indefinitely. So I'm curious, I've started to see kind of these new forms that they know that I'm right because they are violating civil service law. So I'm curious if they've started to get their ducks in a row. And my understanding of the civil service law is that the city has to hold civil service exams in order to make people permanent. But what I've seen them do here is start to just issue forms that, like a signed form that changes their status from provisional to permanent, which I don't know if it is allowed. I know the personnel specialist 2 in the city has been signing off on these, but the personnel specialist 2 is also the person who's been violating civil service law. So I don't think we should leave it up to the people who have been breaking the law to fix the civil service law. I think a big problem with the Civil Service Committee is, right, this meeting is scheduled for 9:45. They only schedule 15 minutes every other week to talk about civil service issues in the city. And civil service, right, it's hundreds of millions of dollars of payroll costs, and the Common Council does not take civil service oversight seriously. And then also here in the civil service is appointing the new executive director. So Brendan Mahaffey, who is the executive director in OSP, he was, again, relieved of his duties, and Nadine Marrero is the new kind of appointment. And I don't know if that one was as politically motivated as much as, Brendan Mahaffey in OSP. That's like where all the corruption was in the Brown administration, and it was just untenable to really. You had to have someone new in there. So I think that's just my perception of the situation. Yeah, and then a bunch of tabled items too. So that's civil service. That's 9:45, and you can watch that on the Common Council's Facebook page. So really the big item there that I'm watching there is the acting police commissioner, especially discussion. The Corporation Council will provide their interpretation of if the acting mayor. It seems the acting mayor is not allowed to appoint permanent commissioners, as only the mayor can do that. And technically, our charter, the only way you can become mayor is being elected mayor. So I think a lot of people think of the acting mayor as like, this is like the U.S. Constitution where, it outlines who ascends. And there's no really ascension to the presidency or the mayorship. It's more of those duties go to someone because the city has no mayor. So we technically do not have a mayor here till November of next year with this election. So let's move on to finance. So this is the finance agenda. I think the big items right here, I think the big one is this mayoral response to the comptroller's letter, and 2562, a letter to administration, the ARPA unencumbered balances. And these items, it had come out last week, These items are about essentially the comptroller sent a letter to the Common Council calling out the mayor and the administration, saying that the ARPA or the American Rescue Plan funds were not all encumbered, and if they're not all encumbered, we have to give the money back. Because again, after during the kind of the pandemic, right, there was the bailouts, and one part of that was President Biden's American Rescue Plan, which gave money to municipalities all across the country. In that program, of which the city of Buffalo received $330 million, came to the city of Buffalo, and they were able to allot that money across 7 categories, things from infrastructure to addressing negative economic impacts, and many things. So that money had to be allocated by the end of 2024. So that date has passed. So the city can no longer change how that money's spent. they have to now expend it. I think they have another 2 years here to actually cut the checks. But all the money's been budgeting. They cannot go and change. They can't move money from infrastructure to negative economic impacts and vice versa. It has to be spent as budgeted. Now they have 2 years to spend it. So the controller sent a letter to the mayor saying that, hey, this money hasn't been encumbered, so we have to give it back. And then the administration wrote a response letter to the controller saying that was not true. And this is especially spicy because acting Mayor Scanlon had terminated Finance Commissioner Delano Dowell, and then Delano Dowell immediately became the deputy controller. So you have this situation where the acting mayor fired the finance commissioner, and the finance commissioner Dowell was really the only city person who was administering the ARPA funds. So he's kind of really responsible for the outlay of the program. And then you have, the deputy controller, the former finance, then, taking shots at his, the person who kind of fired him. So it's interesting because even then in the Common Council caucus last week, it was still unclear. Yeah, it was unclear that no one knows, right? The Common Council was more reaming out the controller for sending that letter out instead of doing it in-house because, right, the controller sends a letter to the mayor and then the council gets phone calls. And it's unclear. I think there's still, I know I've done some minor auditing to the city's ARPA plans and all the numbers are different. So the numbers in the original plan versus the adopted plan versus what the city's reported to the federal government, they're all different. And even what's reported on the city's open data portal and the city's budget, all the numbers are different. So it really wouldn't surprise me. I think you've seen a couple legislators advocate for an audit of ARPA funds. And I think it's interesting. I think money was misallocated, especially, for example, one of the projects is this policy equity vehicle, which was essentially a vehicle for the police department. And that project just appeared. It was never adopted. It was never amended into a document. It just showed up as an expense. So I know I have some questions, and it's very clear that no one in City Hall knows where the money is. So it wouldn't surprise me if that money gets taken back, which would be, it would be tragic because it would just be a comical. You got a free handout from the government, and even then you had to give money back because you weren't able to account for it. And really, one of the main issues in this whole debacle seems to be around the city's accounting system. So Munis, the controller was, it got into really the technical details of what's an encumbered fund versus unencumbered. And the controller says that, contracts need to be entered into Munis, which is the city's ERP, enterprise resource planning system, in order for it to be encumbered. And the controller saying, or the council, or the president, acting mayor is saying something differently. So it's really this comical situation of nobody knows what's going on. So we'll see. That's definitely going to be an interesting item of discussion in tomorrow's meeting. Some other funds here, 25 to 65, the popular annual financial report. So this is a item every year the controller files an item. Yeah, essentially just a financial report for the city. So that's always an interesting read, and that's on the agenda. And then also we have an item requesting an agreement. So right, there's still about the Erie Basin Marina operation. So that was an investigation that came out that essentially the city was leasing the Erie, something like they were leasing the Erie Basin Marina for like $1, and they weren't getting any revenue from it. So this vendor, I think it was Smith Boys, they were like using the marina, getting all the benefits of it, but then there was no liability insurance. So if someone got hit with a boat or died, the city was completely liable for it. And I think it was just an example of really poor contract. You just wonder how many of those are out there because there's just such mismanagement of city contracts and whatnot. So that's finance. That'll be that's like one of the major committee meetings. And then let's look at, so this waterfront development committee is interesting because this was originally scheduled for last week, but they like never announced anything, and looks like they just kind of put it now into after the finance. So it looks like there's really just again, this is coming back to prohibiting. Really looks like they're auditing the Erie County Erie Basin Marina, right? I think there was some, it's egregious, right? If we have this city harbor that's being leased out for $1, the city's getting no revenue from that, but then has all the liability because the vendor has no liability insurance. It just is comically mismanagement, especially when our city doesn't have any money, that you're just kind of you own waterfront property, are only getting $1 in return. And then not only are you just getting $1 in revenue, you're opening yourself up to potentially crippling expenses. If anything, right, a marina is a pretty dangerous operation, right? You have, dozens of boats. You have the potential for people to be drinking while boating. So there's definitely the potential of bodily injury and harm, and all that liability is on the city because the vendor doesn't have any liability insurance. So it's like very comical mismanagement. And you just hope that there's not more contracts like that laying out there. So I'm excited to see that the Erie Basin Marina is on this waterfront development committee because, we can't have that as taxpayers, right? Because then ultimately it's the taxpayers who are asking at the end of the year to foot up the bill for incompetence like that. So that's waterfront development. The legislation meeting. So let's see what we got here. We've got well, it seems like legislation. I mean, they've got some, pretty standard things around, uses of properties, special uses, authorizations, permit requests. Oh, the one that's interesting here this is the legislation committee, which I feel like legislation is about laws and policies. And I was very excited to see, it looks like the Common Council is submitted this item 25-103, local law intro number 1, Article 18-80, establishment of the Charter Revision Commission. So this is actually an actual legislation, an actual law, which the Common Council does not do enough of, but actual laws and legislations. This is around a Charter Revision Commission, which this is really interesting and really important because essentially this charter revision is kind of like a constitutional convention. You can think of it that way. The city charter is the document that kind of authorizes the entire city. It outlines the policies and procedures, and the council has established, there's this legislation that they had talked about at the end of the year, and now it's finally coming before the council to establish an actual charter revision commission. And I think the council brought this forward because, right, with the mayor stepping aside and now us having this acting mayor for 18 months, the council wanted the ability to appoint someone to the vacant or the unoccupied South District seat. They actually can't do that because the charter does not allow them to do that, because technically the acting mayor is still on the council. He is just a non-voting member of the council. So technically there is still a South District council member. They just don't have a vote on the council. So you kind of have this weird situation just based on this technical glitch in the charter, right? The charter was written back in a time when, right, the council president was this at-large position, so voted on by all the city residents. And so you had a mix of at-large council members and district council members. And then they changed that to get rid of the at-large seats. So they kept just 9 districts, and now the council president is elected by the bodies, the members of the Common Council. So it created this weird thing of this glitch of now that we've actually experienced where, oh wait, the mayor steps aside, a single district member becomes the acting mayor, and then that district, right, you have the city residents oppressed because now we're forced to be governed by an acting mayor who 8/9 of the city had no say in them being on the council, let alone them being president. And then you also have the South District council members who now for 14 months are oppressed because they do not have any vote on the council. So it's just bizarre situation that was not foreseen, which I think was why the council initially seeked to establish this charter revision. So this, in order to change that whole, assumption of power and whatnot, that has to be part of a charter revision, and then that charter revision needs to be brought up to a vote by the residents in the next election. So that's why I believe they're doing this. But what this opens up is a charter revision could be much broader than that, right? This is kind of the constitution of the city. So this isn't just an opportunity to amend kind of the order of ascension to seats of power. This is an opportunity to like fundamentally change the operations of our city, which I don't know if the council's fully open to that possibility, but I know there's plenty of citizens, not just myself, but there's plenty of citizens that are really excited about the opportunity to actually radically change the charter, because there's opportunities here to really radically change our government and how the city operates. And a truly open, innovative charter here could really do a lot of good here. And I hope I did apply to be on the Charter Revision Commission and never got any communication. So it's very, I thought this was on the back burner, but it seemed like the council just slipped this into the council agenda here. And it's exciting to have this local law intro. We got a comment here, Rizzler, Rigby and Jay. So thank you. I don't know what Rizzler means, but yeah, Rizzler. So this is exciting because I think as much as the Common Council is probably going to try to clamp public participation down in the Charter Revision Commission, I think there's enough people that have been paying attention, enough interest to really get some true citizens and true innovative thinkers and to really radically propose some really radical changes to the charter. And I have no doubt, and if I was a betting man, I would put that the council is going to try to put members on that are kind of not as radical or maybe open to change. I think I'd almost put money on Dave Franzak being the former Fillmore Council member who's kind of their chosen citizen to chair all these committees. He chaired the gerrymandering committee and the council pay raise committee, and I wouldn't be surprised me if he shows up again here. But I think there's enough people that have been paying attention to this and are really excited about the ability to radically transform the city. And I think this combined with the mayor's race, where you could have a new executive in city government, but then also new laws and regulations actually governing the city charter, are really exciting. And I'm optimistic. I hope that gets a lot of attention. It looks like it's kind of snuck in here, but we'll see. We'll see what the discussion is tomorrow. But I think it's exciting, definitely something to keep our eyes on, because it's like something this year that could really radically bring a lot of good into the city is actually changing some of the policies and procedures. We have a comment here. Keep up the good work from John for all. Well, thanks, John, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I think I'm already liking this Monday show because I can just kind of read and riff on this agenda, and then people can watch the meetings tomorrow and be somewhat informed. And I don't even really view this as work. I think it's just exciting. I think the more I pay attention, the more it's very clear that more people need to be paying attention. And yeah, it can be kind of boring, but at the same time, I call City Hall like a Jerry Springer show, so it's kind of exciting too because yeah, there's just a lot of dysfunction that's always coming to light. So let's move towards community development. Some items here. You have the city's chief service officer, Oswaldo Mastre. He submits his monthly report, which is really just a PDF scanned Excel sheet with data from the city's 3-in-1 system, and really nothing of value. But he submitted that. And then we have the board attendance for the Buffalo Sewer Authority and audit findings from the Buffalo Sewer annual report. The Buffalo Sewer Authority is like, it's not the city, but it's this kind of public authority. And I know one thing I'm interested in, and I've considered maybe filing an item on this, of the Buffalo Sewer Authority, according to my information and my belief, they are violating their bylaws. So their bylaws state that they should have 5 board members, but they only have 3 board members, and those members are appointed by the mayor. And those 3 board members, I believe, have been the only 3 board members for like 15 plus years. And it creates this situation where if any of those board members are absent, the board automatically doesn't have quorum. Because if there's 5 board members, you need 3 board members to have quorum. And I don't know the backstory on that. I just know that there's a lot of corruption and weirdness going on at the sewer authority. And I'd love to see them be in compliance with their own bylaws and have 5 board members. So that's something that's coming up. And I know the Buffalo Sewer Authority, I think it just recently, through some public pressure with Charlie Specht, I know was great on the reporting from the Buffalo, or I think Channel 2 or investigative reporting. He was just he did some reporting on how a lot of expenditures that were going towards travel for employees of the sewer authority, and I think there's some public pressure where now the sewer authority will actually meet at City Hall. They used to meet at like the sewer plant, and nobody was public. But I'm trying my best to kind of monitor and provide oversight there, because no one's really paying attention to the council, but no one is really at all is paying attention to these authorities. So the sewer authority, the water board, and the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency. And then we have this item here, opposition to wind tunnels in Lake Erie. So that's something that had come before the council. There was kind of this environmental group that had been opposing wind turbines, and they almost accepted this. But then Councilmember Golumbic and other council members said they wanted to get more information. So we see a resolution opposing wind turbines in Erie County back on the agenda. And then we also have here Wyatt requesting DPW for electric vehicle infrastructure plan. Yeah, community development, it just seems kind of slow these days. I think all these committees, especially given how much work needs to be done, given the the amount of work and the amount of things that are out of compliance, right? We have violations across the board. It just doesn't seem like a lot of the council members, I don't really know what they do, because they have these meetings that are like 15 minutes long, and then they do that every 2 weeks. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done that's not getting the attention it needs. But those are kind of the big items, I guess, on tomorrow's council agenda. So, sorry, I'm a little sleepy there. But you can watch those on the Buffalo Common Council Facebook page tomorrow. And I think that's some oversight on just what's on the docket for tomorrow. So let's move towards some audit work. So I want to just talk about some FOIL requests that I have submitted. So I did submit this FOIL request. I've submitted several with the Buffalo Police Department. So FOIL 25-199, I submitted a FOIL seeking the City of Buffalo Police Department Chapter 17 investigations, Section 27 behavioral threat investigations and extreme risk protection orders from the Buffalo Police Department's Manual of Procedures. So the Buffalo Police Manual of Procedures, it's a public document that's online, but I'm really concerned that there's this one section, so Chapter 17, Section 27, which is not in the public document, even though it's listed in the index. So I FOILed specifically for Chapter 17, Section 27. So this is the police manual of procedures around behavioral threat investigations and extreme risk protection orders. So those of you that aren't aware, I had the City of Buffalo Police Behavioral Health Unit, or the BHU Behavioral Health Unit, showed up to my house on Christmas Eve to conduct a mental health evaluation. And it's very unclear to me how that happened. I mean, I had submitted a FOIL saying that Nicole Krug from the city's threat management unit, which is essentially the terrorist unit of the Buffalo Police Unit, had requested they show up at my house. And I'm very concerned about behavioral threat investigations, and especially these extreme risk protection orders, which I believe just gives the police department, the authority to conduct behavioral threat investigations and extreme risk protection orders. So this chapter should have a section on policy, extreme risk protection orders, the procedure, applications for, I think, ERPOs, and then TURPO, ERPOs. We're just looking for the policies and procedures which outline what procedures need to happen for behavioral health units to show up to your house. And I'm not sure why this section is not in the public manual. I mean, I could be a little bit of a tin hatter, so I don't want to jump. I want to just kind of assume maybe it's incompetence or a small oversight. But I just really want to know, especially as someone that's personally been influenced, I just want to know what the policy and procedures are. So I submitted that FOIL, and then the police department did actually respond to it. So they submitted a response where they just essentially provided me They said they researched it exhaustively and diligently, and then they just said that the MOP or the manual of procedures is a public document and gave me a link to the document, which I responded saying, I know it's a public document. I stated it was public in my FOIL. I'm more concerned with the specific section, which isn't in the public document, because the manual of procedure is public, but this specific section isn't public. So I have appealed that FOIL to the Corporation Counsel of the City Cavett Chambers. So I've asked her, I've appealed this decision. So I think I believe I have some time here for them to come up with a description or a response to why they didn't provide me. I mean, they closed my request, and I think his name is Joseph Shafransky, but a really poor, shoddy police investigative work here on this FOIL, because I was pretty clear in my FOIL that I was looking for the specific section, which isn't in the public MOP. So I don't know if they read it or didn't read it, but they closed my request without really answering it. And we'll see. I think typically FOILs get forwarded to the Corporation Counsel, which is the city's law department, for FOILs they don't like. And then a lot of times Corporation Counsel just kind of sits on these FOILs, which is, again, a violation of FOIL. They're supposed to respond and have to respond. And if they don't respond with the documents, they have to provide reasoning and legal justification for not. And I think I went to a FOIL workshop with the PPG, or the Partnership for the Public Good, where there was an actual FOIL attorney there. And I got some really just, I don't know, optimistic, but just the FOIL there, he's like, no, those are public documents. Those are your documents. Those are our documents. And I think that just really changed my philosophy. If I used to kind of ask via FOIL, and then if they didn't respond, kind of accept it. But now I'm like, no, those are my documents. Those I'm FOILing. Those are my documents. I'm a taxpayer. I'm the public. Those are my documents. I have the right to see those documents if I want to. So I even think some of the other stuff I FOILed for, specifically around payroll records, where the city definitely doesn't want me to see those, because I can articulate how they're, I don't know if embezzling is the term, but they're stealing wages of employees. And if I had all the documentation, I'd be able to kind of articulate statistics on how many dollars and how many employees are being taken from. But they essentially take my photos and just forward them to the law department, and then the law department is like a black hole of FOIL requests. They just go there, and again, that is a violation of freedom of information law in New York State. We have a right to public documents. We have a right to, right, especially as Americans, right? The American ideal is we are the government, right? If we're not governing, then no one is, and it's our ability, especially with freedom of speech, to be able to ask for documents and private oversight is very important. And I think I'm becoming more fluent in FOIL, and more committed to just keeping City Hall open and transparent. And these are, again, I got really inspired at that workshop of, those are my documents. Those are our documents. We want to see them, and we have the full rights to see them. These aren't City Hall's documents. They work for us. And that's kind of related. I mean, part of me following this is also some of my concerns with the city's data miner contract. So for those, to bring you up to speed, data miner was a contract that was recently approved by the Common Council, which gives the police department 4 licenses to the data miner software, which is a software that essentially allows for social media surveillance. It was marketed and communicated as kind of like a threat management unit. So the ability to analyze public APIs and real streams to proactively determine threats, which is probably true. We don't have much information, but given my experience and knowing where technology is going, also very concerned that that could be just a tool that could easily be used to target and surveil dissidents and oppositional foes of the police department. And especially in my own case, I know probably they're able to, find anyone and then plug in the social media feeds and just make it easier for them to surveil any platform you're on, which I get. We live in the digital age where, everything you're saying is on record, but right, there's also the importance to identify threats via social media. I think the good example is the Jefferson Top shooting. I think there was some evidence coming out that he was posting things, or things could have been identified before that coward came and actually came to the Tops on Jefferson. So, all right, I think everything's a double-edged sword. There's good and bad, but I'm also concerned, especially just given not just my personal experience, but I've heard other people too, concerns with police surveillance. And again, there's an item before the Common Council around the data miner contract, just asking for permission to enter in that contract. But the actual contract has not been made public. So it's kind of also another foil. So I have another foil outstanding. So I've actually filed a FOIL request for the contract between the Buffalo Police Department and Data Miner. So this contract was referenced in the Buffalo Common Council's item 24-2050, permission to enter into contract with Data Miner, which was approved on December 23rd, 2024. So in that item, the police commissioner stated that Data Miner would provide 4 2-year first alert licenses to the Buffalo Police for an amount of up to $82,000, and that funding was available through the 2024 Law Enforcement Technology Grant. So I've actually foiled for the contract. I want to see the actual contract. What's in there? What is the city getting? What are they signing up for? I want to see it. I think there's lots of other people. I know there's a data miner kind of. There was an item a few weeks ago about a data miner accountability task force, and yeah, that's coming up. So. The police data miner contract. I just want to see it, right? There was an item that came before the Common Council that was just for, permission to enter it, but no one's actually seen the contract. And I think given my experience too, with the SAS Institute, which was a data transparency contract that essentially was very similar to data miner, just, helping police use data, and just concerned with the competency level in the police department with data on a staff level. And just want to see the contract, read what's actually in it. And I think there's some people that are concerned too. And I think the more information we can have about what exactly is in the contract will be good. So I've also filed a FOIL specifically looking for documents related to the police department's application for the fiscal year 24 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, or JAG program. So essentially in the data miner item, it was clear that the police department was using funding from this, JAG program to fund the data miner contract. And the JAG application, which is essentially just application to looked like the Federal Department of Justice, it said that the City of Buffalo would use these funds for extra police patrols at select large-scale events to protect attendees from terroristic threats and gun violence. And I think, so I'm just curious kind of what they applied for, how data miner fits under that. I think they're using these funds as data miner because of terroristic threats. And I think, the ideal that the Buffalo Police Department is marketing is that data miner is effective and can be used to, proactively target, terroristic threats, which I think it's great, right? We want to get ahead of terroristic threats and prevent them before they become actual threats. My concern, especially around the city's threat management, is who defines a terroristic threat. Because in my experience, is someone that was branded a terrorist by the city. I don't think I'm a terrorist, but right, it's a slippery slope when things people say online, if the government or people in power don't appreciate that, then you're a terrorist, and then they can use things like data miner or behavioral health unit to ultimately who calls who a terrorist matters, especially when exercising power. So definitely want to see the city's JAG application, because that will just help us get understanding of where the police department's coming from, some of their objectives for this data miner contract, and and how, so just ultimately more information, right? This is, again, coming back to FOIL. This is our information. These are our contracts. These are our tax dollars funding these programs. if we want information and they have information, that's ours to have. So, yeah, we'll see what comes of it. The police department so far has not responded to these FOILs around the data miner and JAG programs, which I don't know if they have time to respond, but also kind of discouraged here that they haven't responded yet because these are pretty straightforward, right? A document should be a PDF somewhere. It's not. This isn't too much investigation work, I think, to find this information. So we'll see, because if they don't respond, I'll be concerned because, yeah, it's a violation of the law. So we'll see. So those are some quick updates from some of my FOIL work. And yeah, so that's some of the work right now. So that's a little bit of my auditing work. So let's do a PIP here. Yeah, it seems a little slow. I don't know. That clock seems like it's maybe not going too fast. But yeah, those are yeah, we did a Buffalo police audit, so definitely optimistic about and just the importance to really have police accountability, especially in a city that's most of our budget is police budget. So there's really the need to have oversight because yeah, a lot of the public resources are going there. So, oh yeah, so let me maybe talk about the ECDC mayoral forum. So on Saturday, I was able to attend the Erie County Democratic Committee's police forum, or not police forum, but their mayor forum. So the Erie County Democrats had a forum for mayoral candidates that were seeking the endorsement of the Democratic Party. The forum was only open to Erie County Democratic Party committee members, which are essentially the people that represent smaller zones in the city and are elected by the Democrats. So it's really kind of a Democratic insider party that I somehow was able to get an invitation to. I'm not technically an Erie County Democratic committee member, although I ran for Democratic committee and was sabotaged by my Democratic council member and the Erie County Board of Elections commissioner because they don't want me in the club. But I am currently the acting campaign manager for Maggie Harder, who is the city of Buffalo's, I believe, the first transsexual anarchist candidate for Buffalo mayor. So it's really a transformative moment in our mayoral election. They're, a new candidate. And I believe Maggie is bringing forward some really important issues. I know I was excited to join the campaign and serve in this role as acting campaign manager due to Maggie Harder's commitment to police transparency and police accountability. Maggie Harder is committed to, making public the city's use of force dashboard, which was developed by the SASHIS forces of the SAS Institute. So I kind of joined the campaign. I mean, just for that, just for actual accountability of the police, I think Maggie Harder would bring transformational change. It also has some really, I just think, fresh, innovative ideas. And just seems to be concerned about a lot of important issues. So I'm excited to, be the acting campaign manager, and we'll see. Hopefully this campaign can pick up some momentum and, just bring some excitement. But I think it's an exciting moment with, right now we have 8, I think, candidates that were seeking the mayoral endorsement. And yeah, I think it was just interesting to be there, right? As someone that's not allowed there. I was kind of surprised at how dysfunctional it seemed and disorganized. I mean, you had essentially it was just like an 8 people on a table, and then you had audience members or committee members came up and answered a question, and those candidates had 2 minutes to respond, but sometimes they lasted more than 2 minutes. And when 8 people each got to get their talking point in, it just didn't seem well scripted, and it was kind of a little disorganized and dysfunctional. I think the other big takeaway I had was just, right, you're already seeing the power factions. I saw the power factions within the local Democratic committee because you had very strong turnout for acting Mayor Scanlon, and as well as State Senator Sean Ryan, and especially it doesn't really surprise me given that the audience was Democratic committee members, and a lot of committee members are hand chosen insiders. So a lot of them work for City Hall. So it was just really amazing to me that Acting Mayor Scanlon had, I think he had about 24 people there wearing Scanlon for Mayor t-shirts, like yelping and cheering for him. And as someone in the city, it's like, how are these people so passionate about Acting Mayor Scanlon? It's like, oh, it's because of the patronage network. They get their jobs through patronage, and by supporting Acting Mayor Scanlon, they get to keep their jobs that many of them, not all of them, but many of them are underqualified for, or really just have because they're connected, right? I'm not part of the club, but they are. So I could imagine if you've got a seat in the club and it's cushy, yeah, you're going to cheer for whoever keeps you in the club. And I think there's some general frustration, especially a lot of the, I don't want to call them minor candidates, but right, the big two, right, that Scanlon and Ryan both have, I think it's over $500,000 in their coffers. So you have a couple of more upstart candidates. I think Maggie Harder's maybe on the more extreme of the upstarts, but you had, some serious candidates like Garnell Whitfield, Rashid Wyatt, you had James Payne and James McLeod. So you had some lesser known candidates, but I think some that have good ideas. And I think the whole way it was organized, where each candidate had 2 members and then committee members could ask individual members questions, just felt like, I think there's some frustration from some of the lesser known candidates that they really didn't have an opportunity to make their case to the committee members. And I kind of echo that. I think it's open as much as the Democratic committee is willing to be open. Right, these forms were not advertised, they were not open to the public, and even the questions were filtered and fielded, and really it just feels like, right, they're doing it just so they can say they're transparent and open, but then I'm not sure who the Democratic insiders, and even it was just interesting because I think as an outsider, I kind of typically think of the Erie County Democratic Committee as like this monolith, people that are all on the same page, but it was kind of, I don't know, eye-opening, but just to see, this is just a group of people that all have their own different opinions, and yeah, they more or less fall into certain buckets, but everybody here is different, and it's not as well organized as maybe it appears from the outside. I think I will say that they're organized in that each of them has their own little zone or their district that they then represent, and it filters up. So they are kind of organized in a systemic way, but when it actually comes to the personalities and just the people there, they all are different, and they're organized in a way, but they're somewhat disorganized. So yeah, I don't know. I think some people saw me there, and I'm optimistic maybe that I could be on the committee someday. I know I wanted to be the Fillmore 16 representative, and right now Fillmore 16 has no representatives, because I am of the belief that the committee would rather have no one represent Fillmore 16 than have me represent Fillmore 16. So I'm optimistic that maybe someday I could be an actual committee member, because I think it's just right. You have a say, especially when in a government where so many of our elected officials are acting, right? We have acting commissioners, acting mayors, and especially in a culture where we have one political party, and then you have elected representatives step away from their positions before their term ends, so that these insiders can then appoint people to the chairs, who, the faceless people on these elected committees, they matter because they essentially then are able to steer incumbency, which incumbency is a huge advantage in the elections. So yeah, I think that's my takeaway. And I'm really excited to be part of the Maggie Harder campaign. I know might have Maggie on future shows, but it just feels like another agent of change, and I think it's just generally inspired me to maybe become more outspoken and more engaged. I think this mayor's race is going to be pretty exciting. It's going to be exciting just to have new, fresh perspectives. And yeah, petitioning starts soon, so to actually get signatures on the ballot, which is another FOIL request I have. Again, I say I FOIL for fun, but I've submitted a FOIL to the Erie County Board of Elections for the actual voter lists. So I'm very curious in doing research, not just for the Maggie Harder campaign, but for my own knowledge. I think I'm getting more interested in maybe my role. I'm really excited about the mayor's race in 2025, but I'm starting to think through what my role in is. And then I think I feel myself being pulled to maybe be more involved on the campaign side. I don't know a specific candidate, but I just feel like maybe being more involved in the actual campaigns versus maybe some more administrative kind of survey. I don't know. I'm still determining that. And I think even just at the forum, there were a couple candidates. I know the Michael Gaynor and James Payne and Garnell Whitfield, I think to me really stuck out as candidates I'd love to hear more from. I think a lot of them bring kind of that outsider energy, and a lot of them were talking about important stuff. So, yeah, I'm kind of of the opinion now that we can have anyone but Acting Mayor Scanlon. I think Acting Mayor Scanlon would be just really status quo, like more of the status quo. And I think the last thing the city needs is status quo. I think the status quo has gotten us in a very, very dangerous position. And yeah, I'm of the position right now that anyone, whether it's Acting Mayor or State Senator Ryan, Maggie Harder, Garnett Whitfield, James Payne, anybody but Chris Scanlon. We can absolutely not afford to have Chris Scanlon be the mayor, especially now as he's using kind of his acting mayor position to weaponize the powers of the mayor to, curry votes and favors. And I think, yeah, that's just kind of, those are my perceptions. And obviously take that with a grain of salt. I'm a former terminated City Hall employee, so maybe I do have some vengeance and, anger from my termination. But yeah, I'm not part of the club, so I couldn't be cheering for someone that, keeps people in the club. So yeah, that's, I think I'm going to wrap up the show here. I don't know how long I am, but I think this clock's running a little slow. So I don't know. Covered everything I need to say, and I don't know if I have another 20 minutes in me. But I think that was a good cover of just, the Buffalo Bills, tomorrow's Common Council meeting, the Buffalo Police audit, foils, and the recent mayor's election. So thanks for sticking with me, and appreciate your time. So until next week, this is the Buffalo DOGE Show. And signing out, this is the end of the show. Okay, bye.